Coming up, you'll see the fleet in action around the world. We'll travel to the North Pole with Navy Secretary John Lehman. We'll go to the Mediterranean to meet the pilots who struck back at Libya. And we'll journey to Guantanamo Bay to talk with undersea legend Jacques Cousteau. Stand by for an action-packed show. Navy News This Week is next.
This is Navy News This Week. I'm Rich Clemens.
And I'm Tacy Buffington. The Arctic Ocean has long served as a strategic bastion for the Soviet Union's submarine force, and the U.S. Navy is working hard to neutralize that advantage. Petty Officer Jacques Pugh was in the Arctic recently when Navy Secretary John Lehman visited the region during the Navy's latest ICE exercise.
At a time when most of the nation's attention focused on the Mediterranean, Navy Secretary John Lehman traveled north during ICEX-86 for a first-hand look at the Navy's efforts to thwart Soviet intentions under the Arctic ice.
Increasingly, our strategy to defend Western interests and the free world interests require us to not only to command the waters in the northern latitudes, but to be able to defend against the Soviets using those northern latitudes, and particularly up under the Arctic ice, to stage their strategic attack threats to all of the free world.
The Secretary noted the continued U.S. presence in the Arctic may put a kink in Soviet strategic planning.
They may have decided to operate up here first in great numbers and devote a considerable amount of activity, but the Soviets have to be very frustrated to see us up here at these ice camps 2 years ago and this year and in the future, because they may end up regretting that they ever drew our attention to these Arctic waters.
But no matter how valuable, Arctic research and development operations cost money. Secretary Lehman said the insight gained from his Arctic trip will help him argue for continued congressional support.
It's important to see and talk with the scientists and the people that are actually doing the research and the operational testing up here. So it gives a dimension of understanding that you can't get inside the Beltway.
Here at Ice Station Annapolis, Navy and civilian scientists don't have time to worry about budget battles. Working around the clock in sub-zero temperatures, they're totally absorbed in ICEX-86's primary objective: to collect and analyze vital data on the ice cover and the waters beneath.
The earlier experiences were more in the exploration navigation phase, and now we're trying to put together the statistical environmental database that will improve our warfighting capability, the employment of these high-tech systems in this unique environment.
Much of the data collected here at Ice Station Annapolis is similar to the data collected on Navy oceanographic research vessels.
The only thing unique about the Arctic is that you can't get here by ship. And this camp here takes the place of the AGORs that are operated by the United States government that support oceanographic research throughout the world.
And like other oceanographic ventures, the success of ICEXs like this one hinges on the Navy's ability to work side by side the civilian scientific community. In an environment like the Arctic,
you know, it's a matter of survival, what we do, and so we all have to work together. So I think that's kind of my biggest, you know, impression of this whole experience has been that sense of teamwork, and I've been very gratified to see it, because I really thought I was going to come up here and have to be battling a bunch of scientists that all wanted to go off and do their own thing and not really want to work together.
In a couple of weeks, the experiments here will be over, and the inhabitants of Ice Station Annapolis will be on their way. It's kind of like the pioneer days, but the objective here isn't to forge out a better life up north. It's to deny what the Soviets consider as being a military advantage under the ice. From the Arctic, for Navy News This Week, I'm Petty Officer Jacques Pugh.
The North Pole, 6 May 1986, a clear and sunny day. The temperature, a warm 18 degrees Fahrenheit. No sign of life except an occasional, but this time unseen, polar bear or a few seals swimming in an open lead somewhere. Unexpectedly from below, the surface of the ice begins to crack. Slowly, a large dark object emerges skyward. A submarine. A U.S. Navy nuclear submarine commands the vast expanse. What makes this an historic day is that 2 other U.S. Navy submarines will soon rendezvous here above the ice, some 12,000 feet above the ocean floor. This will be the first time in history that 3 ships have ever met and joined forces at the geographic North Pole. The geographic North Pole is over 360 miles from the nearest land. The magnetic North Pole is over 800 miles south in northern Canada. This is the USS Ray, the first to break the ice for the meeting. Next, the USS Archerfish pops up to starboard, and then the USS Hawkbill emerges to port. All 3 sailed separately from their home ports in March or early April to be here at this time. Aboard the Hawkbill is Captain Merrill H. Norman of NOSC Code 19, who is the director of the Arctic Submarine Lab. Captain Norman was the officer in tactical command for the polar rendezvous. The Ray, commanded by Commander Steve Johnson, came from Charleston, South Carolina. The Archerfish, commanded by Commander Mike Regal, from New London, Connecticut. And the Hawkbill, commanded by Commander Steve Arndt, from Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Prior to the rendezvous, John Lehman, the Secretary of the Navy, visited Ice Cap Atlas in the Beaufort Sea and rode the Hawkbill beneath the ice pack. NOSC's Arctic Submarine Lab scientists and engineers were serving aboard all 3 submarines, as they do for all sub-ICEX cruises. The submarine surfaced in a polinia, or refrozen lead. The darker ice in the lead itself was about 6 to 10 inches thick. The lighter appearing ice around the lead was upwards of 10 feet thick. The light-colored spokes are where the ice has rafted, pushing one segment over the top of another, making double thicknesses. The ice was constantly shifting and cracking around the submarines, and in many cases, an area which was solid ice became a pool of open water within a few minutes.
Yeah, Bucky, this looks like he's lower than the scope.
At a predetermined time, a C-130 aircraft operating from Thule Air Base, Greenland, joined the 3-ship rendezvous. It spent an hour out of its 7-hour flight photographing the event. It also dropped a package containing magazines and newspapers, which provided the crews of the submarines with their first mail in the many long weeks since leaving their home ports. The aircraft was from the 109th Tactical Aircraft Group of the New York Air National Guard. The light sparkles are sunlight reflecting off frost ice crystals, which have formed on top of the newly frozen ice. These large crystals are so delicate that the prop wash from the low-flying C-130 whisked them away. At this time of the year, the North Pole is a busy place. Santa Claus took time out to greet the 3 submarines. A few days before, a group of Americans had reached the pole by dog sled from Ellesmere Island in northern Canada. And a few days after the submarines left, a Frenchman arrived, having walked from Ellesmere Island. During the busy days of 24-hour daylight and melting ice, the Navy has shed new light on its ability to operate in the polar region. The rendezvous demonstrated the increasing importance of the Arctic to the Navy. and the ability of the Navy to operate under the Arctic ice pack.